Hey everybody. So I'm Brendon Trombley. I am a lead game designer at Games for Change. I'm the moderator of this panel, so I will mostly not be speaking about myself all too much, but I will say that I do have experience in the same space as our panelists. I've enjoyed times back in my career using Minecraft in the after-school space, um, and in summer camps and things like that. So I will mostly let these guys be the start of the show. But hello, that's me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mashfiq Ahmed. I am a high school science teacher at John Dewey High School in Brooklyn, New York, right by Coney Island. I've been teaching for about 7 years now, and about half of that has been dedicated to game-based learning, in particular using Minecraft education inside the classroom and for after-school activities, and branching out from there and seeing what success it brings to my students.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Dennis. You call me Pat for short. I am a school library media specialist in New Jersey. Drove over here. I've been in the space of, I want to say, innovative learning for 8 years. I've been a school librarian for 3. I use various types of game-based learning and gamification in library spaces. I love research. I feel like I'm a lifelong learner, and being able to expose my students to that through games has been very transformative. So it's really cool to see how games and library spaces can advance learning.
Hey, I'm Mike Jenkins. I'm with the Museum of Science in Boston. Any Boston fans here? There we go. Yes, Boston in the house. Nice to meet you all. I'm with the Museum of Science, and I've been there for about 3 years. Kind of my background, I would say I've been playing games for almost 50 years. So since I was a baby, I've been playing games. And probably the last 30 doing digital channels, starting at AOL for a bunch of years, then went to PBS and PBS Kids, did some gaming with National Geographic, and then most recent tour of duty is with the Museum of Science, and we'll get into in a little bit why I'm here in New York if I'm in the museum in Boston. But nice to meet you all.
Cool, yeah, welcome everybody. I also wanted to do a quick little shout out. Mashfiq and Patricia are both alums of Games for Change's Game Plan program. It's a game-based learning professional development program we run at Games for Change. Me and Mary Elizabeth here are main facilitators, so we actually got to know them virtually via Zoom and got to teach them a bunch about how to design games, do game-based learning, long before today's session. So it's great to meet you all in person. Before we get into the panel questions, I thought we could each go a little bit more in depth into the work that we've done, get everyone familiar with the kind of things we're doing in the informal learning space. And we got a slide deck for you. You'll get to just be awesome. And while you're doing that, we'll switch over to Mike's.
Sounds good. Okay, so I just want to highlight a couple of the major things that my students have done with Minecraft education. And now that I'm looking into the audience, I actually see one of my former students right there in the Games for Change shirt volunteering. Hi, Zach. So you don't have to ask me questions about this at the end. You can just ask Zach. Okay. So yeah, one of the things that we did a couple years ago was called the Net Zero Challenge, where students were tasked with redesigning New York City to be sustainable and equitable using Minecraft education. And one of the big things I want to emphasize with this is that even if they are not into Minecraft, which is impossible as children, but even if they're not, there's so many different aspects to this process that they can get involved in. So like you see here, we took them to something hands-on first before we dived into the game. So we went to Coney Island Creek, which is right by our school, so they can learn more about the aquatic habitat that surrounds their local area. And they went into the waters. They did something called seining, which I never knew existed until this day, where they took a couple of nets and then whipped through the little water area, and they saw what was inside there, and it helped inform what they were eventually going to build. And then we brought it back into the classroom and then began like the design thinking process where they started brainstorming their different ideas and collaborating with each other. They stole my whiteboard to like come up with these ideas and bullet points. And it was really cool to see this happening because I didn't give them a template on how to do this. It was very freeform, and they decided to do it like this. I haven't seen that whiteboard since, but yeah. And then they began to model the process, right? They logged into Minecraft. One of the big things about why I use Minecraft education is because it's very accessible. It's free to all New York City students in the public school system, as well as being accessible on iPads, Chromebooks, their phones. And that was one of the big things, because when I was growing up, Minecraft cost like $20, $30, and it wasn't something everyone can afford. And now the fact that they can have this for free makes it so much more impactful and accessible, and also makes me very jealous. I wish I had this when I was a kid. So one of the big things with modeling this, right, is that I'm with them in the front lines. Obviously, I'm not building it for them, but they love asking me for feedback on this. And it's not something that I told them to do. It was really cool to see them like really want to bounce their ideas off me and see like, oh, how should we build this building? Should we add solar panels here? Stuff like that. It was really cool to see them asking these types of questions. And it put me in kind of the role of being like their coach for this rather than like a player on their team. And it was really cool because, much to the disappointment of my father, I wasn't really into sports. So it was really cool that I got to do something like this in a somewhat sportsy setting. So then what you're seeing here is what they built for the Net Zero Challenge. Mind you, they built all this in like a week and a half. It was really crazy. And what they did was they redesigned buildings, and they made like a little video showcase outlining all the details. They added like accessible food, healthcare options, solar panels. They made like a hydroponic system within Minecraft, which was inspired by what they saw at Coley Island Creek. So it was really cool to see them translate what they saw in the real world into this game that they're really familiar with. And then what was really cool was after that, they started presenting this at conferences and symposiums. Here's an example from the Billion Oyster Project Symposium, where they went out to this conference, and I thought it was really funny because everyone else there was like presenting stuff about like what they learned with their years of research on like oysters or like their local aquatic life. And I brought a bunch of like goofy kids to talk about a video game, but it was great because it was giving them a legitimate platform and they could see how serious and impactful their work is. And I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, Zach, we won something for this? We won like an exemplar project award? Yeah, it was really cool that they won something for their hard work throughout like these several months designing this Minecraft project. And then they started developing a larger audience. Microsoft heard about this and they came by, filmed a short little documentary, and showcased it at Stockholm 50 in Sweden to like thousands of people. We got the attention of like the president of Microsoft and the mayor of New York City. And it was really cool. You can see one of my students showcasing what they built in Minecraft and showing what they've learned. And they're also using like the Xbox adaptive controller to show you how it can be accessible through different means. And then it was, showcased at South by Southwest, which is like really cool. These kids are now getting like a global audience to show off their whole journey. And this all really started during the pandemic when everything was remote. And I heard about Minecraft education, and I thought it would be a really cool idea to do. And I also thought it'd be really cool to get paid to play video games with my students. Don't tell my bosses that was the reason though. But yeah, no, it was really cool that this started off with something so simple and now has like a global audience, and everyone's like so interested in hearing more about these kids and their story. And like the last topic I just want to touch upon is with, like I said, developing this global audience. It's receiving a lot of attention. We were at like United Nations events, and they could talk about like their findings about climate change and sustainability. And we were at like the UN General Assembly, and like these kids are able to like go up there and talk about their experiences. And this culminated to other schools getting super interested, and we now visit other schools and provide professional development. And it's not just me. My kids come along with me to talk about Minecraft, and we like push into classrooms and teach like little kids about how to use them. I remember this one time we went to an elementary school, and one of the little kids started crying because it was the end of our session and we had to go. And I'm a high school teacher, so I'm not equipped to deal with that. So it was very awkward for me, but very touching moment. So yeah, it's just really cool to see like my high school students working with elementary school kids and seeing what they can do and like pass it on to the next generation. And then this all culminated to esports, which is one of the big things that my kids have been working on, which is called the Battle of the Boroughs competition, which involves us competing against schools in different boroughs. And it was really cool. So the way it works is they get a theme or prompt that they don't know ahead of time. They have 30 minutes to prep and plan, 30 minutes to build, and then 5 minutes to present to the judges. And a lot of this is themed around sustainability and climate change in New York City and addressing those issues. So it's really cool to see them go out in front of a huge audience and talk about what they just built in the span of 30 minutes. It's like very high pressure, but they're able to pull through. And in 2023, they actually won the championships, and it was a really cool opportunity for them because I believe like the prize that year, they all got like an Xbox for everyone on their team. My room is now full of computer chairs and gaming tables that we won. It was really cool to see this. And again, this all started with a very simple process where I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked out. And what I'm really driving home here is that with Minecraft education, there's like a huge community, and with game-based learning as well. Like I did not do this on my own. I had the support of so many people from my community helping me out with this, and just started off with just me in remote learning in my room, and now we're like expanding this out, and these kids have like so many different opportunities. A lot of them now are like majoring in urban planning now because of what they've learned through Minecraft, and that's just been so cool to see.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Ooh. So I want to apologize to you all in advance. I am a doctoral student, and I am running off of not that much sleep, so I wasn't able to put together a presentation. But I definitely want to piggyback off Mashfiq and Brendon. If it wasn't for these two guys, I probably would have never really gotten to game-based learning. Actually, I do want to also give a shout out to someone in the audience, Dr. Farber, who came all the way from Colorado. I'm in the doctoral program that he was the first cohort member of, and coincidental for my first year, it's a 3-year program, there's a reason why I'm saying all this, he was the guest speaker for my cohort. And he talked about how he used games for impactful learning in the United Nations. I'm like, wait, pause. Games as an education technology, you already had me hooked. So from that experience, and I learned about Game for Change, is how I met these two lovely gentlemen. And really diving home into game-based learning, which I think it's so appropriate being a librarian and want to continue my education, that I wanted to kind of foreshadow that onto my own learners. So with that, I started my experience in Games for Change and learning exactly what is the fundamentals behind game-based learning, gamification, and all that falls under just basically encouraging more engagement in learning spaces. So as a school library media specialist in my current position, I serve as students as young as preschool and always as old as 7th grade, which different audience demographic. And I think it's really cool that high schoolers come down. I'm hoping that high schoolers in my district feel enticed to do the same. But from there, just like Mashfiq said, I took game-based learning. This, honestly, being transparent, is my first year doing it. And I did not expect to succeed at all. So when beginning this school year in September, and in the state of New Jersey, a school library media specialist, we teach information literacy and research, which I'm like, whoa, I'm a doctoral student. I know the kids are gonna love that. No, they did not. They did not like the way I taught it. They did not like the research process. They did not like any of it. They definitely didn't like the topics that my district said was an option, which I think that's where the light sparked in my brain where, okay, I can take this framework of research and information literacy, propaganda, and teaching different information, but let me tweak the content of what we're teaching so that students don't feel individualized in what they're picking. Like, I think one of the examples were why we shouldn't wear school uniforms. That is a very boring topic. I wouldn't even want to write a one-page paper on that. So if me as a librarian is bored doing it, I can imagine what my learners. So from those couple of weeks of them hating me and hating coming to the library, which I'm like, wait, I usually get a lot of love from my students that want to come to the library. I remember my experience with Games for Change and realized I had access to games like Minecraft education and Lego Fortnite, which I'll talk about that a little bit. So besides just teaching it the traditional way, I decided to host year-long game jams in my library where my library formula is, all right, we learn about the content of the topic, we learn how we're gonna integrate Minecraft, and then we, hopefully, this is where next school year comes in, we get to actually implement it, like what Mashfiq is doing with his kids, which I think is so amazing. So with that, my students have taken game-based learning and shot through. So if any of you aren't familiar with the terminology SGO, it means student growth objective. And that is something every year, at least in my district, when you are a non-tenure educator, you have to do. So my SGO was with my 5th grade students, and my 2 targets were to teach them research and information literacy. They tanked. The pre-test was very terrible. None of my students score high. I think out of my 40-something students, 8 scored pretty decently. And again, going in it with this traditional way of teaching this skill that our students need, which another side note, I am also a professor in writing studies. So seeing students at that adult age of writing, I realized, yeah, we need to catch them at a very early age. And it starts in our libraries. So how can we teach these basic skills without having to teach the skills of writing that their ELA teachers are already doing? So with that process is when I first started playing with Lego Fortnite. Is anyone in the audience familiar with Lego Fortnite? Definitely a more friendlier version than Fortnite, less pew pew. More building, really kind of reflecting on how Minecraft education is, which we did get to that towards the end of the school year. So with that, I taught the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of accessible areas. So in my community in Orange, it is an urban area, and the streets aren't well. If you are unfortunately in a walker or in a wheelchair, you will get hurt because the streets aren't designed for people with disabilities. And in my personal experience, I have an older brother who is in a wheelchair, so I understand that firsthand. So with this experience using Lego Fortnite, I had one student, very sweet, intellectual boy. He, and I quote, "Ms. Dennis, this is amazing, but why should I care?" I'm like, ow, that was kind of painful, but that is actually a legitimate question. Why should you care? So before we got even into getting to Lego Fortnite to make simulations of what an accessible village would look like, we researched, we learned. So outside of games, I also love partnering with other outside institutions. So with the Smithsonian, I'm a part of their Nest Teacher Ambassador program, where they dig into sustainable development, and one of the topics we looked at was improving homes. So through their guides and through my curriculum, students would go through designing, not just writing and reading, which of course Zella was amazing for that. We actually went in and I had students draw what would it look like to have an accessible village. So I'm a huge anime fan. If I didn't wear the gaming stuff, I was probably going to cosplay. But I had students, we pretended like we're in Naruto, and we built an accessible village. Again, turning that very impactful topic into something relatable, which also I like anime, so it made fun talking about the class. So from there, when I gave students their benchmarks, same exact questions, the only thing that was different, and it's funny, I was telling this earlier, is that I changed it to Lego Fortnite. That's all I added. And the students' scores went up drastically to I think for each class, 70% of the class showed growth and understanding the concepts. And then by the time we got to the end of the school year, which this was probably my most fun part, and this is where I really got into the Games for Change Student Challenge, which one of my students was a finalist, she didn't win, for the character design, which she designed it after an agricultural character that wanted to spread knowledge and awareness of why we should look at beneficial bugs and pollinators. So again, going back from that game-based element, looking at the content, I was also able to work with an amazing organization called GTAM, if you want to write this down if you're into agriculture. And it's ran through Penn State University. I'm a part of their cohort called Educators Empower Educators. And my environmental science team, we looked at beneficial bugs. So from building that content, I was able to embed other games besides Minecraft education, another cool game called Bee Simulator, which it gives you a simulation of being a bee. And that's how, from, again, my youngest students from preschool all the way to 7th grade learned about beneficial bugs in agriculture. And for the sake of, because I don't have any slides, and I really want you all to see the work that my students have done, please follow me on Instagram. So my Instagram is edtech, so EDTECH with WITH, Pat, PATT. I spell Pat different because I'm special. But if you take away anything from this with the work that I am doing in this library space is that you can merge really sophisticated content like SDG and impactful sciences with things like games in a library space that in essence we are supposed to teach research. That doesn't mean we have to do it a traditional way. Let's do it in a way which all librarians, whether in the school or in the public, we want to tailor our resources and our information to our patrons. And if kids love playing video games, which I love playing video games, I'm sorry, you are amazing. When I played basketball and I'm competitive, if they're not building right, I sometimes like, hey, let me fix your design for you. But I try to stay my hands off. But this is where outside of just the research and gaming and showing how it can be impactful, community building and just learning with each other. So that's kind of my spiel with the work I'm doing with my kiddos in a library space.
All right, and I'll try to hit this in 2 minutes or less.
I mean, it's okay. I had 8 or 9 questions to ask y'all, but I might start cutting them and go to like a few less.
How do I hit for the clicker here? Okay, so I hit this at the top. With the Museum of Science, why are we here in New York at a Games for Change conference? Coming out of 2022, the museum president said, we want to inspire a lifelong love of science in everyone, and he meant it. So that kind of vision statement expanded to actually be everyone, everywhere, in museum, in classroom, online. And we believe in a world where science belongs to each of us for the good of all of us. And he set a big aspirational goal and said, I want, by 2030, which is a 200-year anniversary of the museum, we want to reach 100 million people. We're 3 years into it. And this last fiscal year, we reached 325 million people across channels. So he set a new goal. He's like, I want to reach 1 billion people. Billion's a lot bigger than 325 million. So the way that we decided to try to get there and how we got to the 325 is really, quote Little Mermaid, we want to go where the people are. And so the people are on social media platforms. They're on Fortnite. They're on Roblox. They're on Minecraft. They're out there on all your games when you're, as game makers. So we're trying to pull everybody together around science to see if we can create a global movement to reach 1 billion people and have impact. And then in terms of what we've been doing ourselves in collaboration with Filament Games, I don't know if there's anybody from Filament in here. We built this back in 2022. This is on Roblox. It's called Mission Mars. We're just past 5 million plays maybe a couple months ago. Now we're like 5.3 million. And this is an engineering design game. It was in collaboration with NASA as their data backing it. And it really is teaching kids to create, rovers on Mars, configure them to complete missions, and then iterate, fail, retry, and learn through that process. Then we launched our second game. This one is called Maker Lab, and this is like an astro botanist game where kids can plant and harvest crops on Mars. And then we decided if we've built big audience, how do we spread the love? So there's a kid named Luca that came to the museum. He had built his own Roblox game. It was around reducing the carbon footprint. That's really what the game is. He was in 9th grade at the time, so we're like, hey, Luca, come to the museum. We'll hook you up. We'll make videos of you, and we'll promote your game. So we've been sending traffic into his game, and it's been amazing. So we're on this journey. We're trying to get as much people rallied around it as we can. That's sort of what we're all about. Thank you.
Okay, great. So now we have like a really great idea of all the amazing work you've done. I'm seeing lots of success, lots of impact, lots of students reached. So I kind of want to get juicy and go straight to like some of the spicier sorts of questions. So to get this sort of success, you have to go through some kinds of challenges, right? So what are some of the challenges you guys have encountered in this work, and how have you overcome them?
I would say one of the biggest challenges, especially as a teacher, is just like technology and Wi-Fi. I see a lot of head shaking, right? Yeah. So I think when you're picking a specific game, like me personally, I try to be sure it's like as accessible as possible. Like for example, my school uses Chromebooks. I want to be sure that this is a browser-based game, for example, or if it's something downloadable, I usually like try to reach out to the developer, see if they have like a browser-based version of it. I recently, it's actually in the arcade if you want to check it out. I'm not affiliated with them. This is not a plug, but Star Stuff, really cool stuff with coding and programming. It's a downloadable thing, but they also have a browser version and a whole educator guide. So stuff like that, just looking for those options to address those tech challenges and barriers. It's a really cool way. And like you reach out to like these different organizations and tell them your story of how you're an educator who's really interested in doing this for your students. They love hearing stuff like that. They want to get involved. It's a win-win situation for everybody. So that's how I would address a challenge like that.
I ditto that challenge. In the library space, I only have access to a certain amount of Chromebooks. Unfortunately, in my district, our educators, our accounts, because their Outlook are supported by Minecraft Education, but our students, even though the device is supported, we don't have free access. And unfortunately, in my district, if you're not like a STEM-related school or if you're not actively using it in a curriculum, you can't access the full accounts. So it's definitely not having the availability to have accounts for my students. So a lot of the times, which I do not suggest, this is because I apply for grants. I have to personally, again, go and look for grants to get access to Minecraft's accounts.
Yeah, I'll just triple what they said and then add in the, for something like Roblox, there is this hurdle to get over because I think a lot of people will just think that we can't have Roblox in the classroom. There's some bad connotations around it because of the nature of some of the games on Roblox. So that is a mindset change, plus all the technical hurdles that they mentioned of kind of getting over those.
Yeah, so there's the technical hurdles, but like they're super worth it, right? Like these platforms, Minecraft, Roblox, et cetera. Like, what is it about them, from your point of view, that really makes them so like valuable and so worth going through all that trouble to get integrated in your contexts?
I think what really makes it worthwhile, and this is going to sound like a cheesy movie right now, is just seeing like how my kids react to it and how excited they get and what they accomplish. Like that really motivates me. And I know like in a classroom of like 30 something kids, you're going to have at least one kid who's obsessed with a game like Minecraft. And for anyone who's not familiar with the game, that's totally fine. This is what I always say, like leverage that student expertise, let them become the teacher and guide you. So for example, I played Minecraft when it came out. I'm gonna age myself a little. I was in middle school when Minecraft came out. I'm seeing some weird looks in the audience. But yeah. But yeah, so I played it from like middle school till like high school in 2014. And then I didn't play it for like almost a decade until I started using it as a teacher. So I missed out on like several years worth of updates. So dropping into Minecraft Education, it was a very complicated thing. Like I don't know what was going on in like these new items or like these different crafting recipes, but my students like taught me everything about like the new biomes, the new worlds and everything that I missed out on. And it was really cool because now they're learning strategies on how to like educate others and explain things like, for example, like the new animals and what they like eat and what they avoid. And like they're kind of then like subconsciously explaining like the food cycle to me. And it was really cool to see that. So those kind of moments is like what really motivates me into like keeping up with like Minecraft and doing what I do.
Awesome. I'm just going to share in my book a success story. In my honestly, my whole fifth grade is my success story this school year. They were amazing. They really took all my zanginess and ran with it. I have had a student where he is dyslexic and no teacher can get through to him, not even a speech therapist. But when we talk about Minecraft education and particularly the agriculture Minecraft challenge that we did, in my opinion, he did the best world. And even though he has trouble writing what he wants to articulate, he was able to write it in Minecraft. And it's funny, his speech therapist told me that I was probably the only teacher that got him to write, like willingly. And when he explained to me the concepts of like building his farm and why these certain types of fruits and vegetables were important, I'm like, wait, you guys said this is the same kid that sleeps in every class. Well, I can't tell. I would have thought he was a scientist. But and having him excited to actually want to be in school for middle school, which is 5th to 7th for us, I have them early in the morning. So if you've been around a middle school in the morning, they're not nice. And I always got pleasant personality out of him. And like I said, he was my biggest success story. Having him feel like he was the controller of the knowledge in a space where he feels like he never succeeds, and he tells me like, Ms. Dennis, you make me want to come to school. I'm like, oh, my heart.
All right, so building on what they said, I'd say number one opportunity is that you have their attention. You go, hey, everybody in the class, get out your Chromebooks and log into Roblox. Everybody's excited. You know, if you said, we're going to talk about engineering design, get out your notebooks, different level of interest. So that's one. Two is like, just because of the things and worlds you can build in these experiences, you can think beyond anything you can do in a classroom with pen and paper. So in the case of Mission Mars, you are building a rover and you are traversing the landscape of Mars, run off of NASA data and trying to make it as real as Mars could be. And that's incredibly awesome. As an adult, it's awesome. As a kid, it's even more awesome. And then maybe third point is that when they're out of the classroom, they can go play Mission Mars. Maybe they play for 10 minutes in the class. They can go play for an hour at home and explore Mars. Continue this, design engineering process, iterate, fail, learn. Super cool.
Yeah, so I'm loving all these like individual success stories. Those are obviously great stories, great tools to like continue doing the work, getting more excitement. I'm sure you all have particular stakeholders, right? What are the like kind of measurable outcomes that you have to give to your stakeholders to make sure that you can continue doing this work? Like, how do you measure success? And yeah, what are the outcomes that matter most to you and your stakeholders?
I think for me, like, I was very fortunate. I had an assistant principal who was like really big on using Minecraft. So like when she came to our school, it was like a match made in heaven for her, like when she found out that I was a teacher there. And I know a lot of schools aren't as fortunate. And what I always tell people is if you're in that scenario, just give them my phone number. I'll talk to them personally. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so what the stakeholders at my school look for is just like, what's happening above and beyond, right? Like they're playing this game, they're learning something, what's next? And there's a lot that happens with the what's next step. Like, for example, a lot of my students now, they're thinking about college after this, and they're possibly like majoring in urban planning now because of what they learned in Minecraft. And they're working with like different organizations and like doing different internships because of the skills that they developed. I have students at like Urban Arts, New York Video Game Critics Circle, Games for Change. They're like loving these different events and organizations. And it's really cool to see them take the skills from Minecraft and develop them elsewhere. Like I have one student who, she was like the president of my Minecraft club, and she would make like posters to advertise the club throughout school, and it helped her develop like her graphic design skills, and now she's majoring in graphic design. And like there's a chance she probably wouldn't have done that if she wasn't exposed to making posters for our club. So just seeing what they do outside of the club is just like great evidence for how it's building, because that feels way more authentic. Like no one's telling them to do these things, but they've learned so much and now they're applying it to what they're interested in outside of the classroom setting.
Awesome. For myself, I look at it as my expectations of my job. So as a school library media specialist here, my role is two things. Foremost, I am the keeper of the books. I am the keeper of the media. So I have to keep that space to a certain criteria. And I actually, it's funny, I just wrapped up my school year today, and I had to go through what in my district are called domains. So in our platform is Frontline. There are domains I have to hit. So I use those domains as my kind of artifacts that showcase all the cool things I've done with the kids using Minecraft and using game-based learning. So my first one as an educator is my SGOs. I mentioned earlier, those student growth objectives, which a lot of educators dread them, but I think it's cool because it allows me to actually put measurement to what I'm doing. Because a lot of times when you see games, people see whimsicalness and they don't see the numbers behind them. and being able to just use terminology to match scores. I like mixed method studies, so it gives more of those numbers to go wrong with the qualitativeness of the students' work and just their experience of being in the library. And then second, as a school library media specialist, my job is to circulate resources, circulate opportunities. I am very extra, as you can tell by my outfit. So I create months worth of initiatives so that I plaster throughout the school, whether I'm just working on it with one grade, whether it's a big school thing. And most of my initiatives are game-based. I use Minecraft to do Black History Month. I use Minecraft to talk about agriculture and other different games in that space. So I was judged, well, I wouldn't say judged. I was critiqued by my administrations, both my principal and assistant principal, which they are not Minecrafters. They are not gamers at all. They're just wonderful people who want to see students engage in learning spaces. So being able to have measurements that was required by me from my district, and I'm able to kind of sneak in like, hey, I was able to do all these amazing things and get these scores because games. That was literally the formula, games and engagement. So that's kind of how I show my proof in the pudding. I just embed into what has to be done in my job.
All right, at the museum, I'd say there's a few things. One, we are aiming for that big reach number that we talked about. So are we getting the scale that we're hoping for? More importantly, are we having the impact that we hope for? So we built the games with these learning goals in mind and crunching a lot of the data to say, are kids trying again? Certainly in a classroom setting they will, because it's part of what they're learning in the classroom, but in the sort of at-home play, trying to see if kids make the rover, they go out to do a mission, they didn't plan to have enough oxygen or pick the right engine, and they don't succeed, do they go and try again, or do they give up and switch to another game? So certainly look at all the ways that we're having impact.
All right. So I want to make sure we leave a little bit of time for audience questions, but I did have 2 questions left that I want to ask, so I'm going to turn it into a choose your own adventure. You get to choose one of the 2 questions to answer. Ready?
My favorite flavor of ice cream is chocolate, if that's one of them.
All right, well, I have one question for you. So question 1, option 1 is looking forward, what emerging trends excite you the most for this context, for informal game-based learning? Or how would one get started in using game-based platforms in your own context, in their own context? One of those 2.
I like the second question about how I get started. I feel like a lot of people are really scared to ask that question. This can look really overwhelming. It's like I said at the beginning, I started off not knowing what I was doing, right? And over the years, I've learned a lot on how to teach others on how to get started. One of the big things to know is that you're not alone. Like in the case of like Minecraft education, there's so many like educator communities out there on social media like LinkedIn, Facebook groups that can help you. I wish I knew that when I got started. So like if there's a tech problem you're having or something's not loading right, you can ask online, and there's like so many people with years of experience that you can rely on. And one of the other things I always love to mention is that you should try to reach out to local organizations, even if they're not gaming related. When my kids did the Net Zero Challenge, we reached out to like the Billion Oyster Project, which is like a nonprofit that has nothing to do with games, but it's more about aquatic life. But they help provide support in helping our students learn about that. And then the kids worked on their own to translate it into the game. So there's like a lot of different organizations out there. And if you pitch them this idea, they're going to sound really interested because it's like something that's relatively new. It's very trendy. They definitely would want to get involved in something like that. And as always, check in with your IT person at your school like before you attempt to do any of this, because you don't want to walk into class one day and you find out all of this is blocked. In like the case of Minecraft, they provide you like a list of like all the URLs that need to be whitelisted. You can just forward it to your IT person and they can take care of that. And having admin support is always really good too, just in case. And again, if they are kind of reluctant to it, there's like so many case studies out there showing the effectiveness of it. If you want, I can give you all a link tree to all the work that my students have done, like every news article, podcast, whatever they've been involved in. That's been really helpful to getting like parents and admin on board.
Awesome. I think I'm going to choose option 2 because I don't know where I want to be yet because I'm still swimming. Yeah, there are so many different communities out there. Like seriously. And like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. It started with you all. I honestly wouldn't have known about my community in New Jersey if it wasn't for another New Jerseyan teacher that also did the game plan challenge. We actually work together now. I'm going to tell you from a library media's perspective. If you work in a school, you work with a librarian, ask them. They want to do it. I promise. They just don't know where to start and they feel isolated. Because I felt isolated. We are, I wouldn't say a dying breed, but nobody wants to talk to us. If you can and you don't want to get started by yourself, partner with your school librarian. They are the person of resource. And even if they're not a gamer or they're not familiar with it, if you ask them and you want to get started with it, that is a resource that can be ran through the library and you can get assistance because, again, the way a lot of librarians, whether in the public sector or in school, games are starting to become another collection. There's another collection of information. You can go to your local library and rent out a video game. So at least with what I'm saying, definitely hone in with your community, and if you want to partner in crime, go find your local library.
All right, I'm not sure what the first question was, but I think I'm taking that one.
But yeah, you don't have to. But it's what emerging trends are exciting to you in this space?
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
And I'll just amend it and say most scared of and most excited about, and that's, you can guess, it's AI and how fast that stuff is moving. The scary part is because, the MIT study that it's causing like brain rot, certainly problematic, and that we may all end up in cages one day controlled by AI. That's the other part of it. But on the positive side, in the, game development, I think there will be a future that it's going to be so easy and so fast to prototype experiences. It's already getting that way. So like you can think it, then you can build it, and then iterate on that, and it's just cutting down that cycle of, I think a Mission Mars, the first, that was like a 9-month process, and today's, and that was from 2022. We could probably cut that down, to a month, maybe 2 months, and think in the future maybe a day, and you just have to describe it, and here's the outcomes, and it'll appear. And I think that's going to be amazing, as long as we don't, have mush brains and we're in cages. So
I learned today that the process of using an AI to build a thing for you is called vibes coding. Have we heard of this before? I just learned that today, so it's kind of what you're describing. Cool. So that's all the panel questions I had. I did want to open it up to the floor for audience to ask for the next 3.5 minutes, and we can bring the mic to the question asker.
Hi. Thank you so much for all this insightful conversation. I think I'm just curious about how you pick the content for the games in general. Like, do you have a certain, let's say, curriculum subject you need to cover, or is it more like just to evoke curiosity in students? Like, for instance, Mars project. Is it part of your museum, or, yeah. But the question is for all of you who wants to answer.
yeah, and I'll give a quick answer. So yes, we have core topics at the museum, and then we have areas we focus on each year, and we started with space was like a focus area. So then the team got together and decided on Mars as a focus area.
I do mine based on initiatives that are available. That's why I try to keep my curriculum open like that. Again, using research and information literacy as the framework. But as far as content, depending on what's available, just fortunate enough, Games for Change, one of the topics was outplay hunger, and it falls under agriculture because food science. So food science, agriculture, pollination, spring, summer, that kind of worked out. So I try to do my content, which is not always like science or impactful. I even did like Rube Goldberg, but I did Rube Goldberg because there was the Rube Goldberg's initiative going on. Then I just made a day out of it and made it a holiday at my school.
That sounds like a fun holiday. Yeah, so for me, I'm like kind of split into a bunch of different like responsibilities as a teacher. So like my after school club, I have a lot of freedom with what I can do in Minecraft there. I also teach like a game development class. It's an elective, so I still have a general amount of freedom. But I also do teach a chemistry class, which is aligned to like the New York State Regents standards, and they have to take like a Regents exam at the end of the school year. In that case, which is what I want to focus on, I do love sprinkling in like a chemistry lesson from Minecraft in there. And the nice thing with Minecraft education is they have like a whole lesson library with different content areas and subjects. They have like lesson plans and objectives. So like if anyone needs to show it to their administration, it's all there. It's all aligned to standards. So one good example I like to do every year with my students is when we're learning about chemical bonding, like ionic bonds, covalent bonds, I like to use Minecraft for a little building activity and have them build out different molecules within Minecraft. Like, for example, like I might task them with building like a CO2 molecule or H2O and just see if they can structure out like the different bond lines. Obviously, like this does require a little bit of like front loading on the student, just like going over the different vocab terms and so that they know how to translate like a drawing they make in chemistry class and build it in Minecraft for a completely different molecule. It shows me if whether they understand those concepts or not, and it's really cool. It's like a fun way of doing it, and the kids enjoy it.
We have time for one more question. Does anybody? Hi. I know you, Mike. So this is mostly for the educators. Identity-based play and identity formation, I think, is something that's really interesting to me. In any of the games that you played or had the kids play or develop, did they have avatars that they customized, or like where did you see the most identity formation as, I'm thinking science, like developing a STEM identity beyond, I know you spoke outside of the learning space, but in the games, I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, that is a great question. So when we first started using Minecraft during remote learning, like in Minecraft education specifically, they have like a whole bunch of different like skins and avatars that kids can choose from for like different occupations, different cultures. And it was really cool to see like what kids choose. They had like freedom to choose. Half of them decided to be a little annoying and choose the exact same one I was using to just confuse everybody. But yeah, no, it's really cool. Like I especially love like the diverse options that they keep updating throughout the years. Like I have one student who wears a hijab, and they added a Minecraft character that has a hijab, and she loves seeing stuff like that. I have like other students who are really into outer space. They might put on the astronaut skin, things like that. And there's also the option where kids can make their own skins and like use different programs and like drawing software to design a skin, and then they can import it into Minecraft. And a lot of kids love doing that and adding their custom skins. And I think that's a really big thing too with like representation. Like growing up, a lot of the video game characters I saw were not reflective of me. And I remember when I first saw Minecraft and I saw Steve, I'm like, oh my God, it's a brown guy in Minecraft. That's crazy. And now just seeing like they added like a whole diverse set of characters like Alex and the rest of the gang, it's just been really cool to see that my kids can be represented. And I didn't have that experience, but now they do.
So mine's is more of an identity towards me, and the kids pointed it out. So usually when I do Minecraft, I don't have the students do their own individual accounts because, for one, we don't have enough, and two, I really emphasize on the idea of esports, so competitive gaming in the building. So, and this is coming from my small like children, like preschool and kindergarten. With that age, I use Minecraft more as my content spreading than them on it individually. And every time I log on, regardless of the account, the character is always brown. And the kids automatically know, Miss Dennis, that is you. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's really cool, piggybacking off what you were saying, growing up in the inner cities as a woman of color, there weren't a lot of characters that looked like me. And if they were over appropriated. So it's really cool how like that, like the block and pixel element, it's very simple, but it also shows like, it looks like me as an educator in Minecraft. So now the kids call any brown skin that has a regular, oh, that's the librarian avatar. I'm like, okay. So it's really cool to see how they see me in the game and like, oh, okay, she's our teacher in real life, and she also designed herself in the game, but in reality, Minecraft, it automatically does that itself.
Thank you guys so much. Let's give them a hand.